everybody, and welcome to another board game review and gameplay demo. Today I'm going to be talking about a really fun game that involves movement programming, and essentially you're just trying to get out of an evil place. It's a really easy game to play, it's a lot of fun to do, and it's just something that you can very quickly pick up and just start going at it. It's a fun little filler game. It is Gravwell, Escape from the Ninth Dimension. Now, don't ask me why we are in the ninth dimension, because if you ask me, I personally think we're having trouble just staking around here in the third dimension, but that's just my thought. Either way, Gravwell is a lot of fun. It's one of these games where, if you look on the surface, it seems so ridiculously simplistic, and so like almost insultingly easy, but then when you actually start playing it, you're just kind of like, whoa. This is really insane. This is really fun. This is very difficult, and it has a huge element of strategy to it. It's a lot of fun. So the basic idea for this game is really simple. You and your fellow ship people, if you have them, you can actually play it solo. The whole point is that you are trying to escape from an evil singularity. Why is it evil? I don't know. But either way, I say it's evil. And the idea is you're trying to get to the warp gate. Whoever gets there first wins, or at the end of 6 rounds, whoever's closest wins. Okay? And the basic premise for the game is that it uses a really interesting movement mechanic. Everything movement-based is based on cards that you play. They're called fuel cards. And as you play them, then it will either move you towards the nearest mass, it will push you away from the nearest mass, or it will pull every single mass on the board towards you. Those are the 3 basic things that can happen. It's a lot of fun, and like I said, it is very surprisingly deep. When you first look at it just at the surface, it seems like it's ridiculously simplistic, but it is actually very strategic. And it's one of these games where just because you're out ahead does not really mean that you're winning. In a game like this, it's actually much better to be towards the back of the pack, at least until the very end, because then you can just jump over everybody and then be like, I win! It's super awesome. But either way, with that, I'll go ahead and just get started right away with what this game is similar to. So as I mentioned, there are a few different really main game mechanics for Gravwell. You've got programmed movement, but something that I didn't really mention is that you have what I call a pseudo drafting system. So if you think of something like Seven Wonders, which has a real drafting system, you start off with 7 cards, take one, pass the rest, take one, pass the rest, etc., etc. That is real drafting, where you're really building what you, at least hopefully to an extent, what you want. Gravwell has something sort of similar. The way that it works is you basically have groups of cards laid out on the table, and you select 2 at a time until you have a total of 6. You know for sure what one of the 2 cards is, and the other one is an unknown. It's okay. The thing is that I personally wouldn't call it true drafting, but it's still a fun mechanic, and it's good because it does, to a good extent at least, let you enable you to plan ahead to some extent, which is really what you want with a game like this, because when you're talking about programmed movement, the only thing you need to be thinking about is what you're going to do in the pretty much immediate future and how it's going to work. That said, any game that has some kind of programmed movement, the main one that I think of is the Robo Rally is a really great similar game here. Robo Rally is one that I would argue is a little bit more complex than this, simply because in Robo Rally you have the entire plane of movement where you can go left, right, straight, back, all that, in any direction, whereas in this it's essentially just forward or backwards, just depending on where everyone else is located. And the thing is, you know what they say, best laid plans, they will probably collapse, especially if you're talking about a singularity. But either way, things like that, games like that, very reminiscent for Gravwell. But if you don't like things like Robo Rally, then I would still recommend you give Gravwell a try, simply because it's programmed movement on a much more basic level, essentially. I know that If you've played Gravwell, you're probably screaming at me right now, and believe me, I understand. But just as a comparison to something like Robo Rally, the program movement system of Gravwell is more simple. But either way, with those two, basically just a simple card drafting system of some sort, and then programmed movement. If you played any games like that, then you would have a basic idea of what's going on with Gravwell. But either way, I'll go ahead and without further ado just jump right into my gameplay demo and how this game works. Alright everybody, we are pretty much completely set up and ready to start playing Gravwell. As you can see, it's a very simple game. You have your basic board here. Everybody starts in the middle in the singularity. I have this set up for 3 players. We've got red, blue, and yellow. You also have 2 what are called derelict ships. On these 2 yellow spaces here, you've got the round counter that just indicates what round you're on. After 6 rounds, if nobody has won, then it's just the person who's closest to the finish line wins. On either corner here and here, you have a bunch of weird-looking bar graphs. So these bar graphs are related to the fuel cards. The fuel cards are the major cards that you'll be getting, and that's how you basically get out of the singularity. The goal is to reach the warp gate here, and these fuel cards will let you get there. And what these show you is the distribution of cards in 2 different ways. First, it shows you the distribution alphabetically. You can see here we've got A and we've got Z, so that just shows how the cards go alphabetically. That is how they are played. Everybody simultaneously plays fuel cards, and whoever has the first card alphabetically, they go first and do whatever the action is. The other thing that it tells you is the types of cards that you've got. There are 3 major types of fuel cards. You've got green cards, which will pull you towards whatever the nearest mass is, or greatest mass as a tiebreaker. The other 2 are the tractor beam and the repulsor beam. The repulsor beam is the opposite of the first one, the green one. I don't remember the exact name, but basically the green one pulls you towards the nearest mass, and the repulsor beam pushes you away from the nearest mass. So you can see immediately how you can start going backwards very quickly. The other one, the tractor beam, actually does not move you, rather it moves everybody else towards you, that number of spaces. The length of the bars just indicates how big of a shift it is. So typically, especially for the tractor beams and the repulsor beams, those are mostly pretty small, around 2 to 3. But you can see some of the green ones, they go up to 10 and 9. 10 is the absolute highest. But just to show you some of these cards, for example, here's one of these green ones that will pull you towards the nearest mass or greatest, just depending on if there's a tie. Here is an example of the repulsor beam. This is the one that will push you away from the nearest mass, and you'll go, in this case, 2 spaces. You can see that at the top. And then this last one is the tractor beam. So you can see there's the little arrows that are pointing towards the number there. That just means that you take all the masses in the game and pull them towards you that number of spaces, right? So those are the 3 major types of fuel cards. The other major cards that you'll need are these. These are backed with the same colors as the player's ships, and these are what are called the emergency stops. So these you get once per round. A round is a total of 6 plays of cards, and there's 6 rounds in the game. And basically what the emergency stop will do is it will cancel one of your fuel cards. So if for whatever reason the game didn't go quite as you expected it to, then the emergency stop will allow you to just stay put. It's not going to actually play that particular fuel card, right? So as I said, I've got 3 players. We've got yellow, red, and blue here. We've got everybody in the singularity to start off with, and then we've got these 2 derelict ships. Those act just as random mass, so that we can either push, pull, or do whatever we want as far as that goes. Okay, as I mentioned in my introduction, this is a game where you really aren't winning if you're out in front necessarily. In part, you can see the vast majority of the cards are the green cards, which are the ones that take you towards the nearest mass. So if you've got one that takes you towards the nearest mass, even if you manage to slingshot yourself past this derelict ship, for example, then you'll just end up pulling yourself back. But you'll be able to see that fairly quickly. With that, I'll go ahead and get the cards set up. The way that this works is kind of on a pseudo drafting system. We'll have piles of 2 cards each, and the players take turns taking sets of 2 cards. You'll be able to see one card, but you won't see what the other particular card is. And I say it's pseudo drafting because you really don't have any direct control of what your fellow players are getting, as opposed to something like Seven Wonders, where you actually like take one card, like you can solely do it to make sure that they don't get it. But the thing is, with such a relatively low variety of cards, since most of them are green, then that rarely becomes an opportunity. But either way, I'll just show you how we set it up, and then I'll just go through, play the game, give you a few tips on it, and hopefully you'll enjoy this nice little demo. All right, so we're ready for everybody to go on ahead and pick their cards. Now, you can see fairly clearly that the vast majority of them are the green cards, but there is this one tractor beam here, and there's a couple of repulsor beams as well. So you saw the way that I set it up was in 3 columns. I find that that's the easiest way to do it, is to go by a number of columns of 6 equal to the number of players, because each player is going to end up getting 6 cards. So if you had 4 people, I would just add another column over there, so that way you had 6 more. But either way, what happens now is everybody just goes around and they get to pick whatever they want. And I believe the official rule is the first player is the youngest player, but it really doesn't matter all that much. So we'll go ahead and say that blue is first here, and they will take this one. They'll take the lithium because it's a relatively small fuel. They don't want to be too big. Red's going to be super ambitious and take the 10, the magnesium. Yellow's going to play it safe, take that tractor beam. Blue definitely wants to get a repulsor, as does red, because they took that 10. So they want to make certain they got some options. Get a nice small one, nice big one there, and then another big one, and relatively small one. All right, so now everybody has chosen their cards, and the way that this is going to work is, as I mentioned in the first round, all of us are technically massless, so the player ships do not affect the first round of the game, only the derelict ships do. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just get red set up here, because I love red, and I'll show you just basically what the hand looks like after everything is set up. So you can see here that after writing all of the upside down cards, that red actually has a fairly decent hand, especially initially, because you can see we got 2 of the repulsor cards, and we got that nice big magnesium, the 10. That's the only 10 in the game that allows you to move forward that. So we'll just we'll go ahead and get started. As I said, the first the first round of the game, really the only thing you ever want to play is green cards, because nothing is going to affect what you do. I'm actually going to play with everybody playing in the open here, just to make it easy for me as a demonstration purpose here. All right, but I want to make certain that I still have access to these emergency stops as well. All right, so I mentioned that everybody plays their cards at the same time. I obviously can't really do that because I'm playing by myself. So red's going to play their 10, and then yellow's going to play their 9, and blue is going to play their 8. Everybody just playing their highest cards. Okay, now we go in alphabetical order. So red played an M, so M goes first for 10. And then R is next for yellow, and that's 9. And then 8 for blue, which is here. Okay, so then these 3 cards are discarded. All right, now we end up in a little bit of a pickle, okay? Because now the other players are out of the singularity, so now there are masses to deal with. Everybody's got mass, and everybody is going to be trying to figure out exactly what to do. So the 2 in the back are probably going to be okay with playing bigger cards, but red, being out front, is going to play it at least a little bit safe and go for the repulsor ray here. Right, so hopefully that'll pay off, but we'll take a look here. So blue's going to play the big 7 that they've got, and then yellow's going to play the 5. Okay, and remember, this all technically happens simultaneously. All right, so yellow played a 5D, so they get the way that this works is you can see we're tied between what's the closest mass. So both red and blue are closest to yellow as far as the physical space is concerned. So the way that you break the tie is based off of the amount of mass in either way. So you can see for yellow, the amount of mass on this side towards the singularity is only 1 ship, the blue ship, whereas for this side where red is, there's 1 and then 2 and 3 counting the derelict ships. You have to count those derelicts, and the idea is that this really helps the game get going and get everybody out and starting to move. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that's for yellow. Next up is K, Krypton, right here for red. All right, so this is the repulsor race. So this is the one that pushes you away from the closest and then the highest mass. So you can see here blue is the closest, so it pushes away 2. 1, 2, just like that. Right, and then last but not least is blue with the oxygen fuel and move forward 7. So or go towards the nearest mass 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 at the 15. Nice, very nice. Okay, so there's that. Now red's in a much better position, so red's gonna play this nice big 7 card here. Yellow is still feeling pretty good. But actually what they're going to do, they're going to mess around a little bit. They're going to play this 1 just because they have a feeling of what's going to happen. And then blue is going to play this Xenon to try to repulse off of the yellow here. Right? So first is A. All right? A right here, this Argon. So yellow moves forward 1. Uh-oh, blue is on that spot. The way that this works is you move to the nearest unoccupied spot that's in the same direction. Because yellow was moving this direction, they move over blue and into the next spot, right? Next is X, Xenon. So blue wanted to repulse, okay? And they were like, haha, I'm so super smart, I'm going to repulse off of yellow. Well, no, you're not. Sorry. Because yellow is the closest mass, that means that blue will repulse off of yellow and go back 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh, we're moving towards there, so then, wah. And since it would have been on the same thing. Now, it's red's turn. Red played this Zirconium for a movement of 7 towards the nearest mass. Now, here's the problem. Blue is now the nearest mass, so that means that red would be going backwards. And they're just like, no, I am not moving back 7, so boom, we'll play the emergency stop. That fuel card is canceled. Red cannot play their emergency stop until the beginning of the next round, but even so, I think they'll be okay with it. Okay? So there's that. You can see immediately how quickly everything just starts to go into a massive, massive amount of what's it called? Chaos. It's absolutely insane. It's a ton of fun though. Okay. So let's see what's gonna be next. Man, there's really not a whole lot of choices here, unfortunately. So here. Yellow is going to play this one right here, and then red is pretty tired of being totally screwed over here, so they're just gonna play that one, and then blue's gonna play this one right here. All right. So first is E, because red played E, and they go back 2. 1, 2. Unfortunately, they can't stop that. All right. After that, G. Move 5. Uh-oh. Now that red's behind them and the closest mass, that means that blue would be going backwards. Nope. Emergency stop. They stop that particular movement. And then neon for yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is clearly the closest mass. So we push off of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Woohoo! Yellow's out in front. That's how we roll. All right. So we get rid of those cards right there. All right, so this is the second to last card play of this particular round, and let's see, red will be going for this one. Blue will play, actually they'll play this one, they'll play the bigger one, and then yellow will play this one right here. All right, so first is F, fluorine for red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then H for yellow. The derelict ship here is closest, so that means that yellow will move towards the derelict ship. 1, 2, 3, 4, up, and push to the next one right there. Yoink. And yoink. And then I is last, moving 6 towards the nearest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so now the last card is just an auto play because obviously everybody only has one card left to play. Blue played L, unfortunately, so they go back 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then Q is after that. So Q is interesting. This is one of these tractor beam ones. So the tractor beam literally pulls every single thing towards you 3. So you actually start from the singularity here. So we go out. Blue is first. 1, 2, 3. Pushed over. And then red. 1, 2, 3. And then the derelict ship. 1, 2, 3. And the other derelict ship. 1, 2, 3. Okay, just like that. And last but not least, red with their uranium repulsor. They're pushing off of blue here because that's the closest. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Just like that. So that's the end of the first round. The emergency stops get flipped back over, and they are ready to be used again. The cards will all just be gathered up and reshuffled into a new pack here, and then that's pretty much it. So that's the end of the round. We move the little round marker up one to indicate that we are now on the second round, which again is just based off of the number of cards you place, the 6 cards. But I think you can immediately get an idea of how ridiculously fast everything can just completely spin out of whack. Okay, so I don't think I'll play another round, but I'll just suffice it to say that I'll just mention a couple of other little things. One of the biggest things in this game is resolving ties. How do you figure out which way you go when you are tied? I mentioned before when I believe it was yellow was surrounded by the 2 ships that they went this way because there was more mass. But what if we're in this situation? Right, red is in the middle, and the thing is, the ships are equally close. They're just one space away, but then there's also an equal amount of mass. There's 2 ships here, and there's 2 ships here. In that case, you don't move. You don't do anything. You just sit there. You just chill out. Okay, nothing happens. The only thing that would happen there is the tractor beam. And if you played the tractor beam, say this Q card again, right here, that does 3 again. All the ties are based off of the singularity. The order in which things go is based off of proximity to the singularity. So in this case, blue would move forward first, 1, 2, 3, and then yellow, 1, 2, 3, and then the derelict ship, 1, 2, 3, and then this other derelict ship here, 1, 2, 3, and then it would get pushed back over there. Right? So that's how the ties are resolved. Okay? Just remember, if you are both equidistant to the nearest and there's an equal amount of mass, that is, there's an equal number of ships on either side, you don't do anything. If there's equidistant between the 2 and there's more ships on one side, then just depending on what card you played, you'll move either toward or away. So if you would play this, then obviously you're moving away from the largest amount of mass. If you play the green card, then that means that you're moving towards whichever side has the largest amount of mass. But either way, As I mentioned, you can really obviously and very quickly see how this game can spin completely out of control and get absolutely ridiculous very, very quickly. But that said, it's an absolute blast to play. It's a ton of fun. It's a pretty decent filler game. It has a reasonable amount of strategy, although the randomness of what cards you get can potentially mess you up at least a little bit. But I mean, that's really the whole fun of this particular game is, you know, the best laid plans. It's just like with any other game that has similar movement styles, for example, something like Robo Rally and things like that. Oh, there, see, games that it's similar to. Robo Rally, just thought of one. But either way, anytime you have some kind of programmed movement that can easily be screwed up, you know, this is the type of thing that you're talking about, although on a much more simplistic level, simply because you're talking basically about forward and backward and really nothing else. But either way, with that, I hope that you enjoyed this little gameplay demo. And with that, I'm going to jump right into the conclusions as well as some pros and cons. So I hope that you enjoyed my gameplay demo for Gravwell, and now, as always, I'll go over some of the pros and cons as well as just general conclusions about the game. First and foremost, the pro is that I really like the game's length. I like that you can play it with, I also like that you can play it with a multitude of players. You can play it solo or you can play it with up to 4 people. If you're playing it with especially 4 people, it gets very, very chaotic, which means that it's either going to be a lot more fun for you or a lot less fun for you. So just depending on what your thoughts are for with regard to chaos of from turn to turn and round to round, either way. But those, for me personally, are really big pros, especially the game length, because it's particularly when you're talking about newer players, you want to play something that is not as heavy, not as long. This is a really, really good game to reach for because it still has that nice strategy, but it's simple enough for people to really get relatively quickly. That said, one of the other pros that I like is I like the theme for the game. If you've seen my videos before, you know I am a huge fan of games that are based on science, especially those that are at least somewhat grounded in reality, and this is a really, really fun example of that. It's unrealistic in the context of, you know, why is it that you can use both zirconium and hydrogen as fuel? That makes no sense, you know, stuff like that, but who cares, right? It's at least still somewhat based in reality, and just the idea of utilizing the gravitational push and pull thing is just a really interesting, fun, thematic thing to have that I personally enjoy. As far as cons are concerned, really the biggest one is that programmed movement. It's something that it might not necessarily take getting used to, but it's something that some people just do not like. You just might not want to play any game at all that involves programmed movement. The emergency stop is a really big help with that, because then you can at least mitigate some of the damage that would have been caused. But you also have to think, even if you don't like programmed movement, again, just give it a chance. If nothing else, then simply because a good portion of the game involves the back of the pack catching up to the front. Because if you're at the front, you really can't keep moving forward easily. It's just not possible. You simply can't. Oh, excuse me. You simply can't do it. It just doesn't work in the context of this game. Whereas if you're in the back of the pack, you have a lot more options as to what you can do, where you can move to, and all that kind of stuff. So I would say, even if you don't like it, at least give it a try, but completely understand that is probably the biggest issue that a lot of people will have with this game, is either not really understanding exactly the whole way that, especially things like the tiebreakers, how they work, where, you know, it's like if you've got the equal mass that's equidistant, then that means you don't move at all, and then it's kind of like, well, that was a waste. What am I doing here? This doesn't make sense. You know, just stuff like that. It's unfortunate, and it is something that takes getting used to. But again, as I mentioned earlier, not quite as much as with something like Robo Rally, just because that's, you know, just designed for absolute ridiculousness. Incidentally, also Ricochet robots. Everything with robots. Well, what's the deal here? I mean, I guess you're programming all the robots, but either way, with games like that, the programmed movement is a lot worse. As I said, the emergency stop really helps to mitigate that, but probably going to be the biggest deal breaker for a lot of players. As far as other cons are concerned, for me personally, there really aren't a lot. For what this game is, it's very, very good. I personally would have liked to see maybe something like some new special cards and things like that. And I will be honest, I know the second edition was actually just recently released for this game. I obviously do not own it. I have the original first edition. So maybe they added all this cool new stuff where, you know, you can have a special card where it like allows you to teleport to somebody or something. I don't know. I don't have a clue. But maybe it added stuff like that. I think that would be the one really interesting, again, sort of wrench in the system for a game like this, is to add some kind of special ability card of some sort. Like maybe as somebody's passing over you, you can like shoot their engines and it stops their movement right in front of you. You know, stuff like that. I think that would be a cool little mechanic to have. But as it stands, this game really is great. Highly recommended. You should definitely go out, try to play it. If not for the theme, then just for the gameplay itself. Really great, really short, fun to play, relatively quick to learn. I hope that my video helped you with that, incidentally. But with that, thank you so very much for being here. Please, as always, leave any and all feedback in the comments below. I hope that you liked this video, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much again for watching my board game review and gameplay demo for Gravwell. I hope that you enjoyed it, and again, more importantly, I hope that it made you want to at least try out this really wonderful game. As always, please leave any and all feedback in the comments below, including but not limited to any suggestions you have for other gameplay reviews that you would like to see me do. As always, I have several of my playlists linked up at the top of the page so that you can see some of my other work, and if you want to see more from me in the future, click on that big giant subscribe button, and you can also follow me on Twitter at DannyCGamingSci so that you can get notifications when I post new videos as well. Thank you very much again for being here, and I will see you next time.